Year is 2022. Little old me thought life had finally smiled in my favor. I was going to university at the time, studying a career I didn't really like that much, but it kept my family from bothering me too much with questions about what I was going to do with my life, and it wasn't as demanding as the other options. On top of that, it was one of the most lonely times in my life, without having many friends and being stalked by internet creeps, for the crime of being a bit too honest with how I felt about certain people in the community I was at the time, not to mention the lack of a job. I had taken art commissions on live streams on the side as a way to make money, yet commissions were not coming quickly enough to make it sustainable, as well as live streaming just wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't a very good time in my life, and I felt like I had tried everything to make it better. I didn't know what to do. Until a longtime friend and kind of a crush of mine at the time spoke to me. He had a project that was very big at the time, one of the biggest in the community I was in, to be honest. A project I always wanted to be a part of, and well, he wanted me to be a part of it. I was in shock. My life had finally smiled to me after all the suffering I went through. I immediately accepted, and after signing the contract, we were officially working buddies. I met a group of people that quickly became my friends, and I started to shine like I never did before. But if this was a story about sunshines and rainbows, we wouldn't be here today now, would we? The job was demanding, but nothing I couldn't handle. Yet there were a couple of giant red flags. Job creep, encouraging competition amongst co-workers, inappropriate interactions with our bosses provoked by said bosses, rewards for the co-workers with special interactions with the superiors, confusion and a lack of guidance, among other things. Because I was a recent adult, not being in my 20s yet, I didn't really know what was supposed to be a healthy working environment. And it was the first serious job I had, so I didn't know any better. Yet the money was rolling in, so I kept quiet. Sometime after, the critics who stalked me found out where I was working and created gossip in the community I was working in. For context, as a part of the team, I had to give up my old internet identity to take one that would correspond to the company's ideals and beliefs. As a part of having a new identity, it also came a big responsibility. No one could know who I was now or who I used to be. Of course, the creeps didn't care about the large implications of making up stories about me and just went with it anyway. I was accused of things I never did, with little to no evidence, and yet a lot of people believed them because I made myself a reputation of being too blunt when it came to giving opinions online, and a lot of people don't like being told they are wrong for believing in what they do. For clarification, I do not agree with how I used to be when I was younger, and it was very mature of me to think I was always the voice of reason. This caused a commotion in the community at large, and the managers weren't happy. I wanted to talk using my other account because I had evidence that proved I was innocent of the things they accused me of. Yet, they didn't want me to defend myself on my personal account. In fact, they didn't want me to go back to my old account at all, since they were everything I needed, so why go back? I was devastating, but I tried to hide it since every time I brought it up, they would label it off as not important or that I was being dramatic. They would even joke around me, saying that they would have never hired me if the fake information came out sooner. And there's a part of me that believes they weren't joking. After that, I became a complete shut-in, not only because we couldn't talk about our new identities with anyone, meaning that we also couldn't talk about it with our families and loved ones, but also because my reputation was destroyed, and I didn't have anyone that would care about me, only my coworkers, who I started to see as family. Time went by and the abuse became worse. Now I couldn't even talk with my coworkers about things such as our contract or even complain about what we didn't like about the job, since the chief's girlfriend, another coworker, was constantly ratting us out with his boyfriend. The guy took whoever said the complaint and made up false stories about that worker so the person would be isolated and depressed and less likely to make complaints in the future. In this mess of a place, I was searching for a way to pass the time and ignore my problems when I met something peculiar. A farming simulator called Stardew Valley. It looked warm and cozy, and I'm a real sucker for pixel art games, so I decided to give it a shot. I became obsessed. It had been a while since I genuinely loved something this much, and I met a completely different community, one that was filled with love. I would never really know them personally, as I was and still am just a follower, but I loved every single part of it. The thing I loved the most about the game when I first played it was the introduction. At the beginning, Grandpa gives us a letter that we should only open once life has become a burden, a pain too big to bear, and we need a desperate change. Having the protagonist be on a dead-end job in a clearly exploitative company really hit close with me at the time. Not only that, but the letter being about Grandpa giving you the farm, that stuck with me. I haven't talked about this before, but my grandfather does have a farm, and he grew crops and has dogs in there. The farm is far enough from the neighbors to have peace around night, and it's located in a smog-free environment, so you can actually see the stars when night comes, unlike the city I currently live in. It's a small, yet loving community, with a nearby town with things like hospitals and schools. The neighbors also have farms, with animals like chickens and sheep. And although I haven't seen any cows yet, I have seen a lot of bunnies around the area, and tons of cats. My grandfather is still alive, and I'm grateful for it, but there is a part of me that just wanted to forget about the city life and live with him, at least for a while. So when I saw what Stardew Valley was really about, I kind of froze. I just let the intro play like normally until the game started. I met the neighbors, I planted crops, I checked the email, watched Pierre having this unfair competition with Jojo Mart, and I watched the broken community center and how much it meant for the people in town. I saw how I could help, be useful, be actually liked by the people around me, and the community outside the game was amazing as well. People making fun out of their own ships with the character, and YouTubers collabing with one another. I was invested, but of course, that wasn't my real life, and I had to wake up. Seeing how things could be better, I was inspired to try to talk with the supervisors so things could actually become better for everyone. I accompanied my coworkers, my friends, through the hard times we had endured and tried to unify everyone. Of course, my real-life version of Joja Corporation was pissed, and I was suspended from my activities at the company for a month, which meant I wouldn't be able to make any money for that month. I couldn't stay like that, so I searched for other job opportunities. Trying to unite everyone again, I spoke to the co-workers who I trusted the most about the search, and one of them ratted me out. I was fired immediately, and I was destroyed. When they fired me, they did a call with me where they basically said everything was my fault, that I was an awful person and worker, and that they wished me luck because I was going to need it to find a job as good as that one. It was humiliating, it was depressing, and the worst part, I believed everything they told me. I tried to contact the person who got me in that position, yet I was openly mocked by him, saying explicitly that I should be ashamed of myself. I cried for many weeks, and I didn't know what to do. My family didn't understand me, because why would I need a job if I was studying for university? Of course, it wasn't just to feel useful. My job paid for my food, my transportation, materials for my studies, and also for my medical appointments, such as therapy, things my parents never paid for me. I really thought this was it for me, that there was nothing to look forward to, and I almost did a very bad thing. Yet, there was something to look forward to. The trip me and my family took for vacation was to my grandpa's farm. Although I was too depressed and maybe a little stubborn to admit it, I did enjoy spending the days befriending animals and the nights watching the stars. I didn't want to go back to the city, but it had to happen, so I prepared myself to embrace the worst time of my life. But then I remembered I didn't need to get away from that farm paradise. I could just go to it every time I needed it. I just needed to play Stardew Valley and everything was going to be okay. Time went by, I found two jobs that weren't really demanding. One was live streaming with a new account, and another was writing essays for YouTubers from all around the world. They weren't traditional jobs, but as long as I was studying, my family wouldn't say anything to me, so I kept on working. I made more money, and I felt more free to express my creativity through my writing. I found quick success as a streamer, with my third video on TikTok exploding on millions of views. My writing job didn't last too long, so I continued to make money through live streams. I eventually became too tired of making content that I didn't enjoy just for my followers, and the creeps found me again. So I left streaming and took a break with the money I saved. A strong force made me come back to the surface. The company I worked for was exposed for abuse towards the workers, and I fully supported my regained friends. Yet, I didn't feel comfortable. Too much time passed between me and the other workers, so much that it was weird speaking with one another again. And I started to only be known as a victim of the company, rather than my achievements. As for the creeps, a lot of them were exposed for terrible things. One of them was doing substance abuse and was reckless when it came to her love and even sexual life, toying with people's emotions until they cut her out of their lives. The next one was exposed for having weird interactions in roleplay groups, playing as underage characters in not very childlike scenarios, as well as threatening people with her life so they wouldn't leave her. And the third one just completely left the internet, but as far as I knew, he doxed several people and harassed a few others before leaving forever. Probably someone tried to expose him, and he got too scared and left. Even with that, I still didn't feel safe around people, and so I decided to go to the place that made me happy in the hardest times of my life, and I started a new project called Sophie Stardrop. I don't know what the future may hold, but I hope all of you, every single one who's watching this video, will become a part of it, and I hope you all accept. I'll be waiting for you, and thanks for watching.